The crystal halls of the palace shone like frozen starlight. Princess walked through them with her head held high, her silver skin glowing softly in the morning light. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, like all her people. Her eyes were the color of deep space, and when she moved, it was with the grace of someone who had never known fear. Today, however, she was angry. "A human," she said, her voice cold. "They are sending me a human." Lord walked beside her, his aged face calm. He had served her father for 200 years, and he had learned that royal anger was best met with patience. "The Galactic Council requires it, Your Highness. All diplomatic missions must include representatives from member species. Humans are members now." "Humans," repeated the word like it tasted bad. "They have been in the galaxy for barely a century. They have no great ships, no ancient knowledge. Their bodies are soft. Their lives are short. What use is a human on my security detail?" "Perhaps none," admitted, "but the law is the law." Stopped walking. Through the tall windows she could see her ship waiting in the docking bay. The Starlight Throne was beautiful, a vessel fit for royalty. 12 of her finest guards were already aboard, warriors who had trained for decades, and somewhere among them there would be a human. She felt insulted. The journey to Prime would take 3 days. 3 days with a creature that probably could not even lift a training sword. 3 days of pretending that humans mattered. "What is his name?" she asked. Sergeant said, "He arrived this morning." "I do not wish to meet him." "You will have to eventually, Your Highness." Said nothing. She simply walked toward her ship, her guards falling into formation around her. She did not look back. The inside of the Starlight Throne was as grand as its exterior. The walls were lined with precious metals, and soft light came from everywhere and nowhere. His private quarters took up an entire deck, while her guards occupied the level below. She assumed the human was down there somewhere, trying not to embarrass himself. She was wrong. When she entered the main hall of the ship, she saw him immediately. He was standing near the door, checking some kind of device on his wrist. He was short, at least by standards, perhaps 5 feet and 10 inches. His hair was black and cut close to his head. His face was calm, almost empty of expression. He wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations except for a small patch on his shoulder showing Earth. Her guards stood in a group on the other side of the room, watching him with amusement. "That is the human," Captain laughed. He was the leader of her guards, a massive warrior with arms like tree trunks. "I thought they were sending a soldier, not a child." The other guards laughed, did not react. He finished checking his device and looked up. His eyes met for just a moment, and then he bowed his head slightly. "Your Highness," he said. His voice was quiet but clear. "Sergeant reporting for duty." Looked at him the way she might look at an insect. "You are the human." "Yes, Your Highness." "You are here because the Council demands it." "Yes, Your Highness." "You will stay out of my way. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not interfere with my guards. Is that understood?" Nodded, "Understood, Your Highness." She waited for him to argue, to defend himself, to show some pride. He did nothing. He simply stood there, calm and silent, like a stone in a river. It annoyed her more than if he had shouted. She said, "Show the human where he will sleep, somewhere out of the way." "With pleasure, Your Highness." Grinned and grabbed shoulder, pushing him toward the door. "Come, little human, let me show you to the storage closet." The guards laughed again, allowed himself to be pushed. He did not resist, did not complain. He simply went where he was directed. Watched him go and felt a strange flicker of something. Not respect, certainly not, but something. She pushed the feeling away and went to her quarters. The first 2 days of the journey passed quietly. Spent her time preparing for the summit, reviewing documents and practicing her arguments. The mining rights in the contested nebula were vital to her father's empire. She could not fail. She saw the human only a few times. He was always in the background checking equipment, studying his data pad, watching everything with those quiet eyes. Her guards continued to mock him. They called him the pet and the decoration. One of them, a young warrior named, spilled a drink on him deliberately, simply cleaned himself and said nothing. "Does he have no pride?" asked, laughing. "Does he feel no shame?" Found herself wondering the same thing. She had seen many species in her life. Most of them had strong reactions to insults. They would fight to the death over a harsh word. They would weep and demand apologies. Even the peaceful would at least show anger in their eyes. But humans, this human, nothing. On the evening of the second day, found him alone in the observation deck. He was standing at the window, looking out at the stars. His hands were behind his back and his face was thoughtful. She should have left. She had told him not to speak unless spoken to, but curiosity made her stay. "Do you not feel shame, human?" she asked. Turned, he did not seem surprised to see her. "Shame, your highness. My guards treat you like dirt. They insult you, they laugh at you, and you do nothing." Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Shame is for those who forget what they are here to do, your highness. I have not forgotten." "And what are you here to do? Stand around and look useless." "To keep you safe." Laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "You keep me safe. I have 12 warriors. What could you possibly do that they cannot?" Looked at her with those calm, dark eyes. "I hope you never have to find out, your highness." Before she could respond, he bowed and left the room. Stood alone, looking out at the stars. She told herself that the human was foolish, arrogant, delusional. He was nothing. He could do nothing. But that night, she noticed something strange. The ship's sensor logs showed that had accessed them multiple times. He had been studying their approach to Prime, looking at traffic patterns, checking for anomalies. Her guards had not looked at the sensor logs once. She told herself it meant nothing. Humans were paranoid creatures. Everyone knew that. They saw danger everywhere because they were weak. Still, when she went asleep, she found herself thinking about his words. "I hope you never have to find out." The ship flew on through the darkness, carrying a princess who believed she needed no protection and a soldier who knew better than to say so. Prime was not a planet. It was a city built inside an asteroid, floating in neutral space where no empire could claim ownership. Millions of beings from hundreds of worlds lived there, traded there, and made deals that shaped the galaxy. The Century Summit happened once every 100 years, and the decisions made during those 10 days could change everything. The Starlight Throne docked at the royal port, and Princess stepped out into a world of noise and color and chaos. Aliens of every shape and size filled the corridors. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no solid form at all. Signs in 1,000 languages covered the walls. The air smelled like spices and metal and things could not name. She walked through it all like a queen, her guards forming a wall around her. And somewhere behind them, quiet as a shadow, walked. The quarters were in the upper levels of the station, where the air was cleaner and the rooms were larger. Had a suite that could hold 50 people. Her guards had rooms nearby. Was given a small space near the service entrance, barely bigger than a closet. He did not complain. The first 3 days of the summit were filled with meetings, speeches, and formal dinners. Argued for her empire's right to the mining territories in the contested nebula. She was good at this, and she knew it. Her words were sharp, her logic was perfect, and her presence filled every room she entered. But she was not the only one who wanted those territories. The Dominion had sent their own delegation, led by Commander Bora. There were reptilian creatures, tall and covered in dark green scales. Their eyes were yellow and cold, like the eyes of snakes. They had been enemies of the for 1,000 years, and the hatred between them was old and deep. Bora was a legend among her people. She had fought in 40 military campaigns. She had killed 3 opponents in formal honor duels. When she looked at, there was murder in her eyes, hidden behind a thin smile of diplomacy. "Princess, Bora said during a reception on the fourth night. "How lovely to see the Empire sending children to do important work." Kept her face calm. "Commander Bora, how surprising to see the pretending to understand politics instead of just burning things." The two delegations stood on opposite sides of the room, watching each other like animals waiting to fight. The tension was thick enough to taste. Stood in the back near the door watching everything. He had been watching since they arrived. He watched the soldiers memorizing their faces. He watched the station security nodding their patrol patterns. He watched the servants, the diplomats, the random visitors who passed through the halls. He watched everything because that was his job. During the reception, a young soldier walked past him carrying a drink. The soldier accidentally stumbled and spilled the liquid on his uniform. The drink burned, some kind of acid that ate through cloth and skin. Felt the pain but did not cry out. He simply stepped back, wiped his arm, and pulled out a small scanner from his pocket. He checked the chemical composition of the liquid. He memorized the soldier's face. Then he put the scanner away and returned to his position. The guards had seen the whole thing. They laughed. "The human does not even defend himself," said. "Perhaps he is broken." Captain grinned. "Or perhaps he is simply a coward like all his kind." Heard them laughing. She looked at standing alone with a burned arm and felt that strange flicker again. Not respect, but something. Later that night she found him alone in a corridor. His arm was bandaged now, wrapped in simple white cloth. "Why did you not fight back?" she asked. Looked at her calmly. "Fighting was not necessary, Your Highness." "He hurt you." "I have been hurt before." "So you just accept it. You let them treat you like nothing." Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "A soldier who fights every small battle has no strength left for the big ones. I save my strength, Your Highness. When the real fight comes, I will be ready." Before could respond, he bowed and walked away. She stood in the corridor, confused and annoyed. The human made no sense. He was weak, clearly. But there was something about him, something in those calm eyes that made her uncertain. The sixth day of the summit arrived and delivered her final argument to the council. It was brilliant. Every word was perfect. Every point was proven. By the time she finished, even her enemies had to admit that she had won. The mining rights went to the Empire. Commander Bora sat in her seat, her scales darkening with rage. She had lost, humiliated before the entire galaxy. The hatred in her eyes was no longer hidden. Felt triumph rising in her chest. She had done it, she had won. But that night, while the celebrated did not join them, he spent hours in the station's maintenance tunnels, accessing computer systems that he was not supposed to access. He found something in the records, something wrong. Someone had been entering the life support systems near the quarters. Someone had been making changes. He followed the trail of evidence until he found it, a tiny device hidden in the air filtration system. It was smaller than his fingernail, nearly invisible, but he knew what it was. A nerve agent dispenser, delayed release, set to activate in 12 hours. If it went off, every in the quarters would die in their sleep. Disabled the device carefully, his hands steady despite the danger. He removed it, sealed it in a container, and took it with him. Then he went to find Captain. "I found this in the air system," he said, showing the device. "It is a weapon. Someone is trying to kill the princess." Looked at the device, then he laughed. "Human paranoia," he said. "You probably planted this yourself to make yourself look important. Go back to your closet and stop bothering me with fantasies." Did not argue. He simply nodded and walked away. He did not tell anyone else. He did not seek credit. He simply returned to his position near the service entrance and continued watching. That night, while the slept peacefully, stayed awake. He checked every entrance, every vent, every shadow. He watched the quarters across the station, noting who came and went. He knew the danger was not over. The nerve agent had failed, so whoever planted it would try something else. They would find another way. And when they did, would be ready. In her grand suite, Princess slept without dreams, never knowing how close she had come to death. She still believed that the human was useless, a decoration forced upon her by foolish council laws. She was wrong. But she would learn. The morning after's victory was supposed to be a celebration. The delegation had won, the mining rights were secured, and in 2 days they would return home as heroes. But as walked toward the departure hall, she found Commander Bora waiting for her. The warrior stood in the middle of the corridor, blocking the path. Behind her were 20 soldiers, their hands on their weapons. In front of Captain and the guards immediately formed a defensive line. "Commander," said, keeping her voice calm, "is there something you want?" Bora smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I want satisfaction, Princess. You humiliated my people before the galaxy. You took what should have been ours. Under galactic law, I have the right to demand an honor duel." Felt her heart freeze. The honor duel was an ancient tradition, recognized by the Council. If someone felt they had been wronged in negotiations, they could challenge the other party to single combat. Refusing meant admitting dishonor. It could destroy diplomatic relationships for centuries. "You lost fairly," said. "There is no dishonor in that." "There is dishonor in how you spoke to me," Bora replied. "Your words at the reception were an insult to my entire species. I demand satisfaction. Or is the great empire afraid of one warrior?" The watching crowd grew larger. Diplomats and servants and soldiers from dozens of species gathered to watch. News of the challenge was already spreading through the station. "Had no choice. I accept your challenge." Bora's smile grew wider. "Excellent. The terms are simple: single combat, no weapons, no armor, just body against body in the old way. We fight until one cannot continue." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Or," Bora continued, "you may name a champion to fight in your place. That is also permitted under the law." Sgard stepped forward immediately. "I will fight," said. "It would be my honor to crush this lizard." Bora looked at him with contempt. "Are strong but slow. I have killed 3 of your kind before. Would you like to be the 4th? His confidence flickered. He was brave, but he was not stupid. They were faster than, and Bora was the best fighter her people had ever produced. Fighting her without weapons would be extremely dangerous. Other guards volunteered, but their voices were uncertain. They knew the truth. In a bare-handed fight against a warrior, us chances were poor. The crowd watched and whispered. They looked weak. The princess looked trapped. Then a quiet voice spoke from the back. "I will fight." Everyone turned, stepped forward, his face calm as always. He was still wearing his simple gray uniform. He was still short and ordinary looking, but he walked through the crowd of massive guards like he belonged there. Silence fell over the corridor. Then Bora laughed. It was a loud, ugly laugh that echoed off the walls. The human wants to fight me." She turned to her soldiers and they laughed with her. "Did you hear that? The decoration wants to play warrior." The guards laughed too, though some of them looked uncomfortable, even stared at with disbelief. "You cannot be serious," she said. "I am completely serious, Your Highness," met her eyes without fear. "I volunteer as your champion." "You will die." "Perhaps." "She is twice your size. She has killed opponents in the arena before." "I know." Stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "Why? I have treated you terribly. My guards have mocked you every day. Why would you risk your life for me?" Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You are my assignment, Your Highness. That is enough." "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer I have." Looked into his eyes, searching for something. Fear, doubt, hidden madness. She found nothing but calm certainty. This man was prepared to die, and he was not afraid. She turned back to Bora. "The human is my champion." The laughter stopped. Even Bora seemed surprised. You are truly choosing this creature to represent the Empire. I am. Bora shrugged. Then let it be so. We fight tomorrow at noon in the station arena. Try not to let your champion run away before then. She turned and walked away, her soldiers following. The crowd slowly scattered, talking excitedly about what they had just witnessed. A human fighting a warrior. It would be the most one-sided battle in the history of the station. That night found in the training room. He was alone, moving through some kind of exercise routine. His movements were strange, almost like dancing, but there was something dangerous about them. Each step, each turn, each shift of weight was precise and controlled. "What are you doing?" she asked. He stopped and turned. "Preparing, Your Highness." "Preparing to die." "Preparing to win." Shook her head. "You cannot win. It is impossible. Bora is one of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy." Picked up a towel and wiped his face. "Your Highness, may I ask you something?" "You may." "What do you know about humans?" Frowned. "I know that you are young as a species. I know that you are physically weak. I know that your lives are short and your technology is primitive." "And what do you know about human history?" "Very little. We have not paid much attention to your kind." Nodded slowly. 20 years ago, humanity fought a war against itself. We called it the Siege Wars. 30 billion people died. Cities burned. Continents became wastelands. We nearly destroyed our own species. Said nothing. She had not known this. When the war ended, continued, we looked at the galaxy around us. We saw species that were stronger, faster, smarter, older. We saw a universe that would eat us alive if we showed weakness. So we created something new. We created the Wraiths. Wraiths. Soldiers trained to fight enemies twice our size. Soldiers who could survive anything. Soldiers who learned that pain is just information and that the only defeat is giving up. He paused. "I am a Wraith, Your Highness, one of 43 still alive." He removed his jacket. Underneath, his arms and chest were covered in scars. Old wounds, surgical marks, and faded tattoos that did not recognize. This body had been through hell and come out the other side. "Tomorrow," said, "I will fight Commander Bora. I will probably be hurt very badly. But I will not lose, because Wraiths do not lose. We just keep fighting until the other side cannot." Stared at him, seeing him clearly for the first time. This was not a decoration. This was not a pet. This was something she had never encountered before. This was a human who refused to break. "Get some rest, Your Highness," said, putting his jacket back on. "Tomorrow will be interesting." He walked away, leaving alone with her thoughts and her shame. She had been so wrong about him. She had been so wrong about everything. The arena of Prime had existed for 1,000 years. It was carved from the heart of the asteroid itself, a vast circular space surrounded by seats that rose up like the inside of a bowl. Today, every seat was filled. Beings from 100 worlds had come to watch the fight. Some came out of curiosity. Some came hopping to see blood. Some came because they had never seen a human fight before. None of them expected the human to win. Princess sat in the royal viewing box, her guards arranged around her. Her hands were folded in her lap, but inside she felt sick. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw scars and imagined new ones being added. Below, the arena floor was empty, except for 2 figures. Commander Bora stood on one side, 8 feet of scaled muscle and cold fury. She had removed her armor and wore only simple fighting clothes. Her claws were out, sharp as knives. Her tail swished behind her like a weapon of its own. She looked at the crowd and raised her arms, and her soldiers cheered. On the other side stood. He looked small. That was the only word for it, small and alone and impossibly calm. He wore a simple shirt and pants, nothing more. His feet were bare on the cold stone floor. He did not wave to the crowd. He did not show any emotion at all. The referee, an ancient creature from a neutral species, floated to the center of the arena. "The rules are simple," it announced, its voice carrying to every corner. "No weapons, no outside assistance. The fight continues until one fighter cannot continue or surrenders. Do both parties understand?" "I understand," Bora said, her voice dripping with anticipation. "I promise to make it quick. Humans break so easily." Simply nodded. "Then begin." Bora moved immediately. She crossed the distance between them in less than a second, a blur of green scales and murderous intent. Her claws swept towards throat, fast enough to kill most creatures before they could react. Was not there. He had moved, sliding to the side like water flowing around a stone. Bora's claws cut nothing but air. She spun, attacking again, and again he was not there. He moved constantly, never in the place she expected, never giving her a clear target. The crowd grew quiet. This was not what they had expected. Bora attacked again and again, her movements becoming faster, more vicious. Each strike was powerful enough to break bones, to tear flesh, to end the fight in an instant. And each strike missed. Read her movements like a book, predicting where she would be before she got there. He turned her own momentum against her, using her strength to create distance. For 5 minutes they danced. Bora attacked, avoided. The crowd began to whisper. "Fight me," Bora roared, her patience breaking. "Stop running and fight." His response was immediate. He stepped inside her guard, closer than anyone sane would go, and drove his elbow into her throat. The blow was not powerful by standards, but it hit a nerve cluster that humans had apparently studied very carefully. Bora choked, her breath stopping for just a moment. In that moment struck again, and again, and again. His fists and elbows and knees moved in combinations that were almost too fast to see. He targeted joints, pressure points, the soft spaces between her scales. Each blow was precise, surgical, designed not to kill but to damage. Bora staggered backward, shocked by the sudden assault. The crowd erupted. But Bora was not finished. She recovered faster than expected and caught him with a backhand that sent him flying across the arena. He hit the ground hard and rolled, blood already flowing from a cut on his forehead. The crowd gasped. Stood up. Bora charged again, and this time she was angry. Her attacks were less controlled but more powerful. One claw raked across ribs, tearing through his shirt and the skin beneath. He grunted but did not fall. Another strike caught his shoulder, and everyone heard the pop as it dislocated. Kept fighting. He fought with one arm hanging useless at his side. He fought with blood running down his face and his body screaming in pain. He fought because that was what wraiths did. They did not stop. They did not surrender. They fought until the enemy was down or they were dead. The battle lasted 11 minutes. It felt like hours. Near the end, both fighters were barely standing. Bora had blood running from a dozen wounds. Her left eye was swollen shut. Her dominant arm moved strangely, the elbow damaged by a strike she had not seen coming. She was breathing hard, her scales pale with exhaustion. Looked worse. 3 broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, fractured bone around his eye, blood everywhere. He could barely see, barely breathe, barely stand. But he was still standing. "Why?" Bora gasped. "Why will you not fall?" Looked at her through his one good eye. "Because," he said, his voice rough with pain, "you have not made me." He attacked. It was not a powerful attack. He had no power left, but it was precise, aimed at the damaged elbow that she had been protecting. His fist connected, and Bora screamed as the joint finally broke completely. She dropped to one knee, her arm hanging useless. Hit her again, and again. Each blow was weak, but each blow landed. Bora tried to fight back with her remaining arm, but she was too slow now, too hurt. She could not stop him. Finally, she collapsed. Her body hit the arena floor, and she did not get up. Silence filled the arena, complete, absolute silence. Then from somewhere in the crowd someone began to clap. It was a human, one of the few in attendance. The clapping spread first to other humans, then to species that had always dismissed humanity as weak. The applause grew until it was thunder, until the entire arena was shaking with it. Stood over his fallen opponent, swaying on his feet. He turned slowly, painfully, and looked up at the royal box where sat Frozen. "Honor satisfied," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your Highness." Then his eyes rolled back and he fell. Was moving before she knew it. She pushed past her guards, ran down the stairs, and burst onto the arena floor. Medical teams were already rushing toward, but she got there first. She caught him before he hit the ground, holding his broken body in her arms. "Get the healers," she screamed. "Now." Around her, the crowd continued to cheer. They did not understand what they had just witnessed. They thought it was entertainment. But understood. She understood that this small, quiet human had just done what her 12 elite guards could not. He had protected her with his own body, suffered unimaginable pain, and never once complained. She understood that she had been blind. As the medical teams took away, Captain approached her. His face was pale, his arrogance gone. "Your Highness," he said quietly, "I found something in our quarters, a device." He explained about the nerve agent, about how had reported it and been dismissed, about how the human had saved all their lives without seeking credit. Listened in silence. When finished, she did not yell at him. She did not punish him. She simply said, "Make sure he has the best medical care available. I do not care what it costs." Then she walked away to wait for news of the man she had called useless. The man who had shattered everything she thought she knew. The medical bay of the Starlight Throne was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. Lay in a bed designed for, which made him look even smaller than usual. His body was covered in bandages, his arm was in a cast, and his face was swollen and purple with bruises. But he was alive. The doctors said it was a miracle. 3 broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, fractures in his face and hands, internal bleeding, and countless cuts and bruises. Any other human would have died. Most aliens would have died. But's heart kept beating and his body kept fighting, even when he was unconscious. Visited him every day. At first she told herself it was duty. He had fought for her honor. She owed him respect. But as the days passed and slowly healed, she realized that respect was not the only thing she felt. She felt shame, deep, burning shame for how she had treated him, for how she had let her guards treat him, for all the times she had looked at him like he was nothing. On the 5th day after the fight, woke up. Was sitting beside his bed when his eyes opened. For a moment he looked confused, uncertain where he was. Then he saw her, and his expression became calm again. "Your Highness," he said, his voice was rough, weak, "did we win?" Almost laughed, almost cried. "Yes, we won, you won." He nodded slowly, as if this was the answer he expected. "Good. How do you feel?" "Like I was stepped on by something very large." He tried to smile, but it turned into a wince of pain. "I will recover." Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I owe you an apology." Looked at her with surprise. It was the first real emotion she had ever seen on his face. "I treated you terribly," she continued. "I called you useless. I let my guards mock you. I thought you were nothing but a decoration forced upon me by the council. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Said nothing, waiting. "You saved my life twice. Once with the nerve agent, which finally admitted to me, and once in the arena. You nearly died protecting my honor, and I never even thanked you." "Thanking was not necessary," said quietly. "I was doing my duty." "It was more than duty. It was," struggled to find the right words. "Told me about the wraiths, about what you went through, the training, the wars." He said that of the original program, only 43 survived. His eyes grew distant. 42 now, died last year, cancer. "I am sorry." Do not be. She lived longer than any of us expected. We all did. He looked at directly. Your Highness, may I speak freely? Of course. You should not feel shame for how you treated me. You treated me the way most species treat humans. We are small, weak, short-lived. By every measure the galaxy uses, we are inferior. It is natural to dismiss us. But you are not inferior. The arena proved that. Shook his head slowly. No, I am inferior. My bones break more easily than yours. My body heals slower. I will be dead of old age before you reach middle life. By every physical measure, I am less than a. He paused. But strength is not just about bodies, Your Highness. It is about will. It is about refusing to stop when everything tells you to stop. Humans learned this because we had no choice. We could not be stronger, so we became harder. We could not be faster, so we became more stubborn. We could not be bigger, so we learned to hit where it hurts. Listened, seeing her universe shift around her. The galaxy thinks we are weak because we are quiet, continued. We prefer it that way. Let them underestimate us. Let them think we are nothing. When they finally understand what humans are capable of, it is usually too late. He smiled, and despite the bruises, it was a real smile. You are not the first to learn this lesson, Your Highness. You will not be the last. The journey back to the took 3 days. During that time, everything changed. Captain approached and apologized publicly in front of all the guards. It was awkward and clearly painful for him, but he did it. The other guards followed, one by one, offering words of respect that they should have given from the beginning. Accepted each apology with the same calm grace. He held no anger, showed no satisfaction. It was as if the insults had never mattered to him at all. Perhaps they had not. On the last night before they reached home, called to her private quarters. He arrived looking better, his wounds healing well, though he still moved carefully. I have a proposal for you, she said. Waited. When we return, the diplomatic exchange program will end. You will be sent back to Earth, back to your people, she paused, unless you choose to stay. His expression did not change. Stay, Your Highness. I want to formally request you as my permanent guardian, not through the exchange program, not as a requirement of the Council, but as my personal choice. You would serve directly under my authority. This is unprecedented. I know. Your father may not approve. My father has already heard about the arena fight. He is interested in you. His voice turned bitter. He sees you as useful, a tool. He wants more humans like you for our military. Nodded slowly, understanding what she was not saying. I do not want you to be a tool, continued. I want you to be valued, respected. I want to prove that the Empire can see humans as more than just weapons or decorations. She looked at him directly. I want to make things right. Was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful. Your Highness, I have spent my whole life being underestimated, being dismissed, being treated like nothing. I am used to it. It does not bother me. But it bothers me, said. It bothers me that I was part of that. I want to be better. Another long pause. Then I accept, said. I will stay. Felt something loosen in her chest. Relief, hope, something else she could not name. Thank you, she said. He gave a small bow. Thank you, Your Highness, for seeing. On the final evening, they stood together on the observation deck, watching the stars flow past. There was visible now a bright jewel growing larger by the hour. Soon they would land. Soon everything would change again. Said, can I ask you something? Of course, Your Highness. In the arena when you were fighting Bora, when you were broken and bleeding and barely standing, were you not afraid? Considered the question carefully. I was terrified, he admitted. Every moment. Fear is not something you can turn off, but fear is just information like pain. It tells you that something dangerous is happening. It does not tell you what to do about it. So what made you keep fighting? He looked at her, and for just a moment his calm mask slipped. She saw the human beneath, tired, carrying wounds that would never fully heal. Because giving up was worse than dying, he said. Because some things matter more than survival. Because I made a promise to protect you, and I do not break my promises. He paused. And because that is what humans do, Your Highness, we keep going, no matter what. Nodded slowly. She understood now. She understood everything. Then I'm lucky to have you, she said. Smiled a rare and genuine smile. I am lucky to be here. They stood together in silence, watching the stars, as the ship carried them toward an uncertain future. A princess who had learned to see beyond her prejudice. A soldier who had shown a galaxy what humans could do. Different species, different worlds, different lives. But standing together, they were stronger than either could be alone. And perhaps that was the point all along.